Good morning, friends. I am Patty Elhoff, the author of Upcycle with Decoupage, and I've been looking for this type of a cabinet, believe it or not, without the back on it for a long time. And even if you're not going to use this or a piece of furniture that you have for the same reasons, I am using this to go in the, we have a larger upstairs bathroom, and I want to put the kitty litter box in here. So it just happened to be perfect for me that this has a front door on it. So like a garage, I can open it and close it and take the box out, keep the box clean. But it also does not have the back on it. You could take any cabinet like this and just remove the back and use it for the same purpose that I'm going to use it for, which is to place the kitty litter box inside of it, keep it hidden, but have this decorative piece of furniture up in that smaller bathroom. And if you can't find a piece of furniture like this, I've also taken in the past, this was an old hamper, and what I did was I just took the back of it off, and the kitty litter box fit inside of it perfectly. It kept it hidden. It just looked like there was a little hamper in the corner. And anyway, I will show you how we're going to work on this piece of furniture today. But even if you're not going to use it for kitty litter, not everyone has cats, you can follow these same instructions for any piece of furniture that you have. And the first thing that I did was I took chalk paint and I covered the whole surface, the front and the back. I love to use a roller with the chalk paint. It gives a nice even coverage. You can use acrylic paint on this. For this project, I am using chalk paint, and I'm going to cover the whole surface all around the outside. By the way, the reason that I use chalk paint on almost everything is because you virtually don't have any prep work to do. You see the very high gloss on this furniture? You would normally need to sand that down, scuff it up. It would take quite a long time. With the chalk paint, you can go ahead and paint right over this, and I'm using this smaller brush for the trim here. Something else I would like to mention, because I get chalk paint all over my hands and my fingernails, my manicure, I always use a scrub brush like this with some liquid soap and then some baking soda, and I wash my hands with those three things, and it removes all of the paint and gets in everywhere and cleans all of that chalk paint off of your hands. But the other thing is, I will be using for the second coat this special brush made for chalk paint. And what I'm doing is, first of all, I'm using my left hand for the camera. I'm not left-handed, so this looks a little awkward to me. This is also on a Lazy Susan, so I'm sorry if it's a little wobbly. I wanted to be able to spin it to show it to you easier in the video. but I am putting this paint on in kind of a crisscross sporadic pattern, which is recommended with chalk paint. It leaves a very nice finish. And I'm going to finish the second coat this way all around the outside. I then put this aside to dry, and chalk paint dries very quickly. I then took the adhesive sizing because I'm going to do the metal flake or the silver leaf on top first. Made sure this top was clean, and I ran into some trouble, and I'll tell you how I fixed it. So I believe part of the problem is that the instructions tell you to wait 30 minutes to go back and check to see if this adhesive is tacky, and then you apply your silver leaf. However, these instructions were made well before chalk paint came onto the scene. So normally you would arc the silver leaf like this to make it easier to apply, and then you place just the one page down. You don't need the whole booklet. Then you place the whole thing down. Now I noticed that the silver leaf was stuck to the paper, and I think that might be because I purchased a bargain brand. That is not what I will have on my website. I will put the good stuff on my website. Lesson learned. And I noticed that when I followed the instructions, some, very few, but some parts of this surface were tacky. Some felt dry to me, but I said, well, I am following the instructions. I placed everything down, and as you can see, I'm trying to make sure that this metal leaf adheres to the surface, but when I went to pull the back piece of paper away, so much of the metal leaf or the silver leaf came up with that. Not what I wanted, got a little bit frustrated, so I thought, okay, let me try something else. I then took my craft iron and I tried to iron this metal leaf down to the adhesive, thinking I would remelt the adhesive and this would then stick. That didn't work. So what I did was I decided to take my decoupage glue and cover the whole surface. This is matte decoupage glue. I covered the whole surface with the decoupage glue, and then I put this aside to dry. Once the decoupage glue was dry, I followed these same steps. I placed a leaf down. That's parchment paper. Again, I took the craft iron, and now I was going to remelt the decoupage glue. This seemed to work a lot better. So I just went over the whole surface. I eventually switched to a larger iron, but there are a couple of tricks here too. You do want to be careful that you don't iron this paper down, which it has some type of a surface on it. As I pulled it away, I could see there were a few spots that didn't adhere, so I went back over them with the craft iron. And then I pulled the sheet up, and you could see that some of the metal leafing still did not come up, but this did a much better job. So I ended up covering as much of the surface as I could using a craft iron and a regular household iron. I would suggest that you use parchment paper here when you're using the larger iron. So I just finished the whole top this way. And by the way, this metal leafing should pull right away from this backing paper. It was so stuck to it. Something was wrong with this particular metal leaf. Normally it flies off and it's very hard to handle, so it should not have been like this. So it did turn out that there were a lot of open spaces on the surface that did not have the metal leafing. I decided to leave it look like it was meant to be that way, like a shabby type of finish. In the meantime, I also took this product called Inca Gold. It's silver. All of these things are available on my website, by the way. And this is a beeswax based metallic paint. You should see some of the beautiful colors this comes in. And I just put it around the trim up around the top here. And I then moved on to the stencils. You want to make sure you use a low tack paint and a level, you've got to get that stencil on there straight, and I centered it. And for this smaller stencil, I used a pouncing brush, and again I used chalk paint, and this is a white chalk paint, and I just covered the whole stencil. And then when I pulled it away, it looked like this. So I then went on to the sides and I used a different stencil. And the links to my website are below for all of these stencils also. My website does go through Amazon Prime. I'm sorry, it goes through Amazon. So if you've got Prime, all of the same free shipping features, 2-day shipping, all of that applies. And if you don't have Amazon Prime, I still attempt to find only the items with free shipping as often as I can. I used a roller brush, chalk paint again, on this much larger stencil because it went a lot faster. You want to make sure that roller brush isn't too wet. That means you want to offload some of the paint. So put the paint on your roller and then just keep wiping it so that the brush is kind of on the dry side. Now that everything is done and dry, you have to put an oil-based varnish over the silver leafing or it will tarnish. I'm using this spar varnish and it did take about 24 hours to dry. It does dry clear. So I put it on with a sponge brush and I left it overnight to dry. I also wanted to put a top coat or a varnish around the sides and the front of this, but I wanted a matte finish. So what I did was I used a matte varnish and covered the whole outside of this. The top will be shiny, the outsides will all just be the normal matte finish. Left everything to dry overnight. And by the way, on this little handle, I took some E6000 and a piece of jewelry and I glued that on there. It will last forever. And here is how our final project looked. Now I could only take pictures here. It's really hard to videotape this. Everything under the sun kept getting in the way, including my pets. So here's how the final product looked, final project. I want to thank you guys so much for subscribing, for all of your questions. I do my best to get back in touch with you as soon as I can. One other thing I wanted to mention, because I am putting the kitty litter box inside of this, I am going to coat the whole inside with spar varnish so that if anything sprays or gets wet in there, I can just wipe it out easily and this will last forever. And don't forget, Upcycle with Decoupage is also on Facebook. If you go over and like and follow the page, you'll be notified every week when I put a new video out. And I will see you guys next week with another video. Thanks again, guys. Bye-bye.